My name is Hannah, I'm a student and I'm Jewish.
My name is Diora, I'm a journalist and I'm Muslim.
I joined the Labour Party a couple of years ago because I saw it as the place to fight for equality, justice, fight for a better Britain after years of a Tory government. And I left because I realised that the Labour Party in its current form is not where those conversations happen and not where those changes are made due to regressive, institutionalised anti-Semitism. I'm just so angry and frustrated that a movement which is meant to stand up for equality and oppose racism has become in itself a racist movement.
I'm so sorry that you've gone through that. There's definitely a systemic case of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and I don't think people are saying that clearly enough. And even though Jeremy Corbyn has apologised apparently on occasions, and he did last week on This Morning, I don't blame anyone who doesn't believe him. All I can say is I want to give complete solidarity to you and the rest of the Jewish community. Boris Johnson, as you know, wrote that article a few years back, maybe it was last year, for The Spectator, and he called Muslim women who wear niqab, he said that they look like letterboxes and bank robbers, which is honestly the tip of the iceberg of all the awful things he said about Muslims and also about other minorities as well. Boris Johnson recently has said that, we've apologised for every single incident and we've dealt with it. But, he's had MPs and councillors share loads of stuff on social media that's really horrific and Islamophobic and includes phrases like Somali scum and Islamist rape gangs, and I think some of his people in the party are retweeting Tommy Robinson, who we know is a massive racist. Yeah. I don't have any faith that Islamophobia is being dealt with at all in the Conservative Party, just like I wouldn't expect any Jewish people to believe that the anti-Semitism that exists in the Labour Party is properly being dealt with, because when you've experienced it for so long, why would you suddenly believe that overnight it's being dealt with?
Yeah. And I think what both leaders are doing is they're saying, we've done everything that's been asked of us, we've solved it, it's all in the past, and that's clearly not the case. And
people are saying
awful.
Boris Johnson yesterday, and I do think that there's a very similar sentiment as well with Jeremy Corbyn. They keep saying we need to move on, we need to focus on this now, and it's like you are literally gaslighting communities that you've hurt for so long.
Yeah,
that's not the way to deal with it whatsoever.
It's saying you need to forget what we've done to you, and especially over the general election campaign, all the Labour leadership have been standing up and saying we're doing everything that the Jewish community has asked of us. It's not true. There's a list of 19 things that the Jewish community has asked of Jeremy Corbyn, and he hasn't done them. It feels that people can really easily sideline our concerns for a bigger cause, and we see this a lot in the Labour Party. I think some people do recognise that there's anti-Semitism, but actually they care more about other policies, and so they're willing to say, oh well, Jewish people will be oppressed, but that's fine because we'll get better social housing or something like that.
Yeah, of course.
And unless you oppose all forms of racism, you're not an anti-racist, and that's what so many people in the party don't recognise.
Yeah. And I think sometimes what we're told is that one group of minorities, so the Jewish people, should somehow be against the Muslim community, and that actually we're fighting for the same thing, because both of the oppression that we face is institutionalized. Who am I to say what your experience is? And I'd rather listen to you and hear what you have to say and try and deal with it, rather than be like, no, what you're saying is not as bad as my experience. It's not a competition.
There's no hierarchy.
Actually, the other day, there was a piece in the Times, I think it was something like, the Islamophobia in the Conservative Party is not as systemic as the anti-Semitism in the Labour Party.
If there is an Islamophobic individual or party in government, it's not long before Jewish people start to become oppressed by the same thing as well. It's all interconnected. And like we say, if you're not anti-racist against every form of racism, you're not an anti-racist and you shouldn't be in parliament.
And I think that's what's been really frustrating, is that the Conservatives have somehow made themselves this anti-racism party in this election campaign, and it's like, what are you talking about? Anti-Semitism is used as a way to say, vote for the Conservatives. And it's like, hang on a minute, does this issue not exist within all the parties? What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's so difficult because realistically, at the end of the general election, either Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn will be the Prime Minister, and I don't have an answer to who to vote for because they're both
but I feel like we've been. It seems like the onus is on us to make that decision, but actually we've been given a really shit decision to make.
Exactly.
And it's like, I personally don't want to vote for the Labour Party if that means that it looks like I'm not standing up for all my Jewish friends. But at the same time, there's no way in hell I'm going to vote for the Conservatives who have an open Islamophobe as their leader.
I agree.
So it's like, what are you meant to do? And we live, because of the way that our elections work, obviously it's not proportional representation.
Yeah.
It's first past the post, so it seems like there are only the main two parties that you can vote for.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
It's just, it makes me so angry that young people and diverse communities are put in a position where they feel like they might have to throw someone under the bus in order to further their interests, and that's not the case. That's not how diversity works. It's about strengthening us all together, or none of us can gain anything. And it's clearly a broken system where the two individuals who we have to choose between both have issues and neither are fit to be Prime Minister. And we need to find a way to find a system that can work for everyone, because as it is, the system's broken.
Do you guys think that there's a political home in this country for people who are anti-racist?
No.
I don't think there's a political home for people who are anti-racist, because racism, as I keep saying, exists in every single part of our society. So I don't really know what we're supposed to do.
I think what's so dangerous about how tired everyone is of all this politics going on is that people, and this is happening globally, people see really complicated problems and they try to find really simple solutions.
Exactly.
So, I can't find a job, immigration is bad and that leads to Islamophobia, or, there's a banking crash, blame the Jews. And it's those really easy sound bites and catchy slogans that is also exacerbated on social media that leads to these rumours and these sentiments that are really hard to destroy, because you can't say, well, actually it's a bit more nuanced than that, and there's all these issues, and you see the background because you've got 140 characters on Twitter.
And also, for example, yesterday when Boris Johnson was asked about Islamophobia, he literally just answered the question in relation to Brexit. And he was like, we want to get Brexit. And I think what is really frustrating is that Islamophobia, it does exist as its own issue, obviously, but it's also entrenched in so many other aspects of governmental policy. You don't have to necessarily say the word Muslims to know that you're talking about Muslims. It's such a privilege to be like, I'm tired of politics. I just don't want to do it anymore.
Exactly.
But
because when you walk down the street, you're targeted for who you are and you're spat at.
Exactly.
That you can't afford to not be. Politics is your life.
Exactly. And I think people who can sit down and openly debate politics like they've got nothing to do with it are clearly not affected by any aspect of the policies. And I think people don't understand that when we talk about politics, we're literally talking about people's lived experiences in everyday lives. I'm just personally quite curious, what do you think of people who vote for Labour knowing that the anti-Semitism is a problem, but they feel like they don't have a choice to vote for any other party?
I don't know what to say to that. Well, I wish I had an answer.
The same if someone asked me about Islamophobia and they're voting a Tory, I'd just be like, well, you're still making that choice. Knowing that it's
still the choice that has to be made. And I think some people make that choice comfortably. I think a lot of people are making that choice comfortably at the moment. Some people are also making it uncomfortably and recognising the problem. But I wish I could just say to you, just do this and you'll be fine.
There's no real answer.
There is no answer. And I understand why different people have different politics, but I think if people are voting Labour at this election, and I would urge them not to for the sake of my community, but go out and campaign against anti-Semitism, get in touch with your local Jewish community and see what you can do to help. You can't just vote Labour, put your pen down and run away and pretend that the problem doesn't exist, because it does. And if you ignore it, it's going to get worse, and then it's going to affect all of us.
What's been really frustrating is that any concern of anti-Semitism in Labour has been seen as a smear campaign against Jeremy Corbyn. And I just cannot believe that is coming from the people who say they're listening to lived experiences of minorities, because clearly they're not. And I think we should listen to every lived experience of minorities. And I'm not here to tell you how you should feel. I want to hear how you feel, and I don't want to complete that story for you.
Yeah, I have to say that means so much to me, because I'm so used to, when I speak out about anti-Semitism, either being told it's a smear, or being told, you're just sticking up for Israel. It's not to do with Israel. And by the way, no one's ever said it's anti-Semitic to legitimately criticise some policies of Israel. That's not the conversation that's going on here. So when people try to move it away, it is so frustrating. But it is so rare to be told, I believe you and I'm willing to listen to you and take your words for what it is. And I don't know how often I hear that in this political climate.
It's just so frustrating that we're all people fighting for the same thing, but we're constantly being made to feel like we're not.
Yeah.
And I can't help but feel like that's a divide and conquer tactic.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. It's politicians trying to pit different parts of the country, different communities against each other and playing the numbers game with them. And we've got to, as young people, stand up and say it's not going to work. We don't accept politics of division, and actually, if we come together and have conversations like these, we can together build the country that all of us want to see and that works for everyone.